The sun burned like a fierce torch over the endless desert. Waves of heat rose from the sand, making the horizon shimmer and dance. Every grain seemed to glow with a cruel light. In the distance, a lone figure sat on the hot sand, barely moving. Her skin was pale, her clothes torn and dusty. She was small, fragile-looking, but her eyes held a strange spark, a spark no one in the desert expected to see. Her name was Leora. She was paralyzed from the waist down, unable to walk or even crawl. Alone in this harsh world, she depended on her father's mercy. But her father was not a man who cared for weakness. He was Baron Kael, a cold and powerful alien ruler. He had left her here, abandoned in the desert, as punishment for her supposed failures. The wind howled across the dunes, carrying with it a mix of sand and the faint scent of something long dead. Leora's small frame shivered as she tried to shield herself from the burning rays. Her heart pounded, not just from the heat, but from fear. Each moment in the open desert was a challenge to survive. She knew the sun could take her life if she stayed exposed for too long. Her stomach growled with hunger and her throat burned from thirst. Every step she wished she could take ended in pain and frustration. But Leora did not cry. She refused. Even as her father's cruel shadow loomed in her mind, she remembered something her mother had once whispered to her long ago. Even the smallest light can shine in the darkest place. She closed her eyes, trying to imagine that light inside her, a small warmth that gave her courage. Hours passed, though time seemed endless in the desert. Sand shifted around her like tiny waves of fire. The air felt heavy, almost alive, pressing down on her chest. Leora wondered if anyone would ever come for her. Most people had given up on her already. Even her father believed she had no worth. But in her heart, a small thought kept her going. I am still here. I am still alive. From the top of a distant dune, a figure appeared, moving steadily across the heat-blurred sands. At first, it was only a shadow, almost impossible to see against the shining desert, but slowly it became clear. It was a man, tall and strong, walking with purpose. He did not stumble on the uneven sand. His eyes, hidden behind dark lenses, scanned the horizon. And then, they fell on her. Leora's heart leapt. She had not expected anyone, and yet here he was, a stranger, moving toward her with determination. She wanted to call out, but her voice had grown weak from thirst and fear. She simply raised her hand slightly, a small wave, hoping he would see her. The man stopped for a moment, crouching on the sand to get a better look. His expression was hard to read, but there was something in his gaze that startled Leora. It was not pity. It was interest, curiosity, and maybe something else. A recognition that she was not just a helpless girl left to die. He spoke finally, his voice low but firm. You shouldn't be out here alone. Leora tried to answer, but her throat was too dry. She nodded slowly. Her eyes, wide and fearful, did not leave his face. He seemed calm, almost unshaken by the desert's heat, while she struggled to stay conscious in the blazing sun. Without waiting for her reply, the man began to move toward her. He carried a small pack on his back, but Leora could not tell what was inside. Every step he took left a trail in the sand, and every step seemed to carry hope. She felt a strange flicker of something she had not felt in a long time, the possibility of rescue. But the desert was cruel, and danger was always close. Leora had learned this from experience. One misstep could bury her in sand or leave her exposed to the sun's wrath. She watched the man carefully, unsure whether to trust him, and yet something about his calm confidence made her want to believe in him. As he reached her, he knelt down beside her. His eyes studied her carefully as if trying to measure her strength. You have survived a long time here, he said quietly. That means you are stronger than anyone believes. Leora blinked. She had never heard anyone speak to her this way. Not her father, not anyone. Strength? She did not feel strong. She felt broken, paralyzed, and abandoned. But something about the way he said it made her wonder if he saw something she could not. For the first time in days, a small smile touched her lips. Maybe, just maybe, she was not as powerless as she thought. The man offered her a hand, not forcefully but with patience. Leora hesitated. Could she trust him? Could she risk trying to move? The desert seemed endless, but perhaps it had brought her a chance to survive, to discover something hidden deep within herself. The wind blew harder, sand stinging her skin, but Leora held onto his hand. Together, they would face the desert. Together, they would begin a journey that neither of them could yet imagine. And somewhere deep inside, Leora felt a spark of hope. The desert was dangerous, harsh, and merciless. But for the first time, she felt that maybe, just maybe, she could survive. And maybe, just maybe, she could become more than anyone expected. The desert wind had not slowed. Sand whipped across the dunes, scratching Leora's arms and stinging her face. Yet, even in the burning heat, she felt the presence of the man beside her. He moved with careful precision, placing each foot on the sand like he knew exactly where to step. Leora's heart beat faster. Could someone really survive this desert without special gear? She wondered. The man stopped a few feet away from her and crouched again. He removed a small device from his pack and held it up. It looked like a strange, glowing cube. The cube hummed softly, pulsing with light. Leora squinted at it. What is that, she thought. Her curiosity outweighed her fear, though only just. This, the man said, his voice calm but firm, will help us. He didn't explain much. He simply activated the device, and a faint dome of cool air formed around them. For the first time since the sun rose, Leora felt relief wash over her. The heat became bearable. The pain in her muscles eased. She inhaled sharply, tasting the cool air. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice hoarse from thirst and fear. The man looked at her carefully. "I'm called Kieran," he said. "I wander these lands. I've seen many lost souls, but none like you." Leora blinked. Lost souls? She didn't understand. She only knew she had been abandoned by her father, left to die in this unforgiving desert. She had grown used to hiding her fear. But something about Kieran's gaze was different. It wasn't pity, it wasn't judgment, there was recognition, almost as if he saw something hidden in her, a spark she didn't yet fully understand. You can walk?" she asked, her voice trembling. Kieran shook his head. "I can. You cannot. Not yet." He studied her carefully, as though measuring her, not by her body, but by something deeper. But that might not matter. Some strength does not come from legs. Some strength comes from here. He tapped his chest lightly, over his heart. Leora frowned. She had never felt strong. She had been taught to believe weakness was her nature. Her father had made that very clear. And yet, she felt something stir inside her, a small, dangerous hope. Could it be possible that she was more than just paralyzed flesh? Before she could think further, a low sound echoed across the dunes. Leora stiffened. Kieran's eyes narrowed. He gestured for her to stay down. Through the heat haze, a group of figures appeared far on the horizon. Alien scouts, drones, whatever they were, they moved fast, scanning the sand. The desert had its dangers, and Leora realized he had not been safe even in solitude. "They're coming," Kieran said quietly, "and they're looking for you." Fear gripped Leora's chest. "Father's men?" she whispered. Kieran didn't answer. Instead, he motioned for her to follow him. Carefully, he guided her toward the shadow of a jagged rock formation. Leora struggled to move, dragging herself with her arms, but Kieran stayed patient. Every few steps, he checked the horizon. Every few moments, he whispered encouragement. "You're stronger than you think," he said. "Even sitting here, waiting, you've survived. That counts for something." Leora wanted to argue, but she could not. She had survived, yes. But survival did not feel like strength. It felt like luck. And yet, Kieran's words felt real. They felt like a small rope thrown into the darkness, something she could hold on to. They reached the rocks, and Kieran quickly activated the small cube again. The cool dome appeared around them once more, shielding them from the drone's scanning devices. Leora gasped at the soft hum and glow. This man, he really is different, she thought. He is not like the others who leave you to die. Kieran crouched next to her. "You have a gift," he said quietly. "I don't know what it is yet, but I can feel it. There is something inside you, something powerful, something your father fears." Leora stared at him, disbelief on her face. "Gift? Powerful? I'm just a weak girl." "No," Kieran said, shaking his head slowly. "You are not weak. Your body may be limited, but your mind is sharp. Your spirit is stronger than most I have met. That is why your father left you. He knows your potential, but he doesn't understand it." The words hit her like lightning. Could it be true? Could she have something inside her that even her father feared? The thought both terrified and thrilled her. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a life beyond crawling in the sand, beyond being a prisoner of fear. But there was no time to dwell. The drones were closer now, their hum rising above the wind. Kira, and grabbed her hand gently. "You will need to trust me," he said. "I will not let them take you, but you must focus. You have something inside that can help us. We just need to find it." Leora swallowed hard. She felt the heat of the desert, the sting of the sand, and the weight of her fear. And yet something inside her shifted. The spark her mother had once spoken of, the spark of light in darkness, flickered alive. She nodded slightly at Kieran. She would try. She would trust him. And in that moment, the desert seemed less endless, less cruel. The journey was only beginning, and though danger lurked on every horizon, Leora felt a small, undeniable truth. She was not just a helpless girl abandoned in the sand. She had a power waiting to awaken, and someone had finally seen it. The desert stretched endlessly in every direction, a vast ocean of burning sand and shimmering heat. Leora's arms ached as she dragged herself along, Kieran supporting her with steady hands. Every movement was exhausting, and her throat screamed with thirst. The sun was relentless, beating down like a hammer. Even with the protective dome from Kieran's device, the air outside was scorching, and the sand seemed to reach for her like invisible fingers. "We can't stay out in the open much longer," Kieran said, scanning the horizon with a sharp gaze. "We need shelter, somewhere the drones can't see us." Leora nodded weakly. Her body protested every movement, but her mind was sharper than ever. She realized survival was no longer just about escaping death. It was about finding a way to fight back, even in her weakened state. They climbed toward a ridge of jagged rocks in the distance. The rocks were ancient, crumbling, and full of sharp edges, but they promised shade and cover. Kieran's hand never left hers, steadying her every time she slipped. "Just a little further," he encouraged, his voice low and firm. "You can do this." The closer they got, the louder the humming of the drones became. Leora could feel the vibrations through the sand, their sharp mechanical eyes scanned the dunes, searching for any sign of life. She shivered, not from cold, but from fear. The desert no longer felt like a place of emptiness. It was a hunting ground. Suddenly, the sand beneath her shifted. A small tremor ran through the dune, and a wave of loose sand slid down toward her. Leora froze. Kieran reacted instantly, pulling her back just in time. The sandstorm that followed was sudden and violent, kicking up clouds of scorching particles. Visibility dropped to near zero, and Leora could barely see Kieran in front of her. "Stay close," he shouted over the roar of the wind. "Keep your hand on mine." The dome of the device protected them partially, but the storm battered them with fierce wind and flying grit. Leora felt herself slipping, her body trembling, but Kieran's grip never wavered. Each step was a struggle, each breath a labor, and yet, through the chaos, something remarkable happened. Leora's senses sharpened. She noticed patterns in the storm, the way the sand shifted, the way the wind moved around obstacles. Without realizing it, she began predicting where she could place her hands and arms to move more efficiently. "You're learning fast," Kieran said, a hint of surprise in his voice. "I didn't think you'd react so quickly." Leora's heart raced. Could this be the spark Kieran had spoken of? She had never felt capable of anything beyond survival, but now her mind seemed to adapt, almost as if the desert itself was teaching her. The storm began to subside, leaving behind a ringing silence. They finally reached the shadow of a large, crumbling alien ruin. The structure was jagged and strange, with sharp edges and alien symbols carved into the stone. Kieran carefully guided her inside. The air here was cooler, and the walls blocked the harsh sun. Leora slumped against a stone column, exhausted, but alive. "This will be our shelter for now," Kieran said, setting down his pack. He activated a small light inside the ruin. Shadows danced across the walls, making the space feel alive. "We'll rest, but we can't stay long. Drones will keep searching, and your father will not give up." Leora's eyes wandered across the carvings on the walls. They were strange, glowing faintly in the dim light. Something about them felt familiar, though she couldn't place why. Her fingers brushed the carvings, and a faint warmth pulsed beneath her touch. She gasped, pulling her hand back. Did this just move?" Kieran's eyes widened slightly. "Interesting," he murmured. "It seems you are sensitive to this place. Not everyone can feel it. Maybe this is part of your gift." Leora's mind whirled. A gift? Her thoughts were filled with questions and fear, but also a strange sense of excitement. Could she really have some hidden power? Could she survive, not just as a weak girl, but as someone stronger? But the danger was far from over. From the entrance of the ruin, she could see faint red lights blinking in the distance. The drones had not given up. Kieran moved quickly, pressing a small button on the device. A low hum filled the ruin, and a faint shimmer covered their hiding spot. This should hide us for now, he whispered. But we have to stay alert. You never know when they'll try something new. Leora nodded, gripping the edges of the stone column. Fear still ran through her veins, but it was mixed now with determination. The desert had tried to break her, to leave her behind, but she had survived. She had fought through heat, sand, exhaustion, and even the relentless drones, and she had discovered something new, something inside herself that she did not fully understand. For the first time since her father had abandoned her, Leora felt a spark of power. The desert was not just a place of suffering, it was a test, and she had passed part of it. Kieran sat beside her, quiet but alert. Tomorrow, we move again, he said softly, and tomorrow, you might discover even more of what you can do. Leora nodded, staring at the glowing carvings. She did not yet know what lay ahead, but one thing was certain. The desert had shown her a truth she could not ignore. She was stronger than anyone believed, even herself, and her journey was only beginning. The night in the desert was colder than Leora expected. The sun had gone, leaving behind a sky filled with strange stars that flickered and swirled like distant fires. Inside the alien ruin, the air was cooler, but it still carried the scent of sand and metal. Shadows stretched across the walls, dancing among the glowing carvings that Leora could not stop staring at. Kieran had settled beside her, his eyes scanning the dark horizon outside. You need rest, he said quietly, but Leora could not. Her mind was restless, filled with strange thoughts and questions. She kept glancing at the carvings, feeling the faint warmth beneath her fingers. Something about them hummed in response to her touch, almost like they recognized her. Curiosity overcame her fear. Leora moved closer to the carvings, her hands brushing across the glowing symbols. As she did, a strange sensation ran through her body, like tiny sparks moving beneath her skin. Her heart raced, but it wasn't from fear. It was excitement, power, possibility. Suddenly, one of the symbols glowed brighter beneath her hand. A soft hum filled the air and the carvings around it seemed to shift slightly. Leora pulled back, eyes wide. Did I do that? She thought. Her mind reeled. Could she really have triggered something with just her touch? Kieran noticed immediately. Leora, he said softly, leaning closer. His eyes were wide, a mix of awe and caution. I think you've just done something most cannot. Leora shook her head. I didn't do anything, it just happened. Kieran studied her closely. No, that was no accident. I've seen signs of this before in stories of humans who could sense energy, who could influence machines and technology without touching them. You might be one of them. The words hit Leora like a lightning bolt. Humans with powers. She had thought her life was nothing but weakness and pain. Her father had left her to die because he thought she had no value. But now, for the first time, she wondered if she was more than he knew. Kieran motioned for her to stay calm. Try it again, he said. Focus on the symbol. Don't think about what you are doing. Just feel it. Leora hesitated. Her hands hovered over the carvings, but fear tugged at her. What if she failed? What if something went wrong? She took a deep breath and remembered her mother's words. Even the smallest light can shine in the darkest place. She placed her fingers lightly on the glowing symbol again. Slowly, she felt the sparks return, stronger this time. The carvings responded, pulsing with light and rhythm with her heartbeat. A soft warmth spread from her fingers to her arms, and then through her entire body. The symbols shifted, rearranging themselves into patterns she had never seen before. Her eyes widened in wonder. I'm doing it, she whispered. Kieran nodded, a small smile on his face. Yes, you are. But there's more. These symbols are connected to the ruins. They are part of something bigger, technology perhaps, or knowledge that has been waiting for someone like you to awaken it. Leora's mind raced. For years she had felt helpless, paralyzed, abandoned. But now, a new truth began to settle inside her. She had a gift, something powerful, something her father feared, something that could change everything. A sudden noise outside broke her concentration. Red lights blinked through the cracks in the ruin. The drones had returned. Leora froze, but Kieran's hand was steady on hers. Focus, he whispered. Use your gift. Let it guide us. She looked back at the symbols, then at the device Kieran had brought. Slowly, carefully, she reached out, not physically, but with her mind, and touched the energy that pulsed from the carvings. To her astonishment, the protective dome of cool air shimmered and expanded slightly. The sensors in the drones faltered, their scanning light wavered, unable to detect them clearly. Kieran's eyes widened. You did that with your mind? Leora shook her head in disbelief. I I think so. Kiran placed his hand on her shoulder. This is incredible. You have potential no one imagined. Your father, he underestimated you, but now you are awakening. And if we train this, you will be unstoppable. Fear and excitement warred inside Leora. She thought of the desert, the heat, the pain, and the abandonment. And then she thought of the spark, the one her mother had spoken of. It had been buried for so long, but now it was alive. She felt it deep in her chest, and for the first time, she felt hope. The drones continued to hover outside, but Leora no longer felt powerless. She had learned that the desert was not just a place of suffering, it was a place of discovery, and she had discovered herself. Kiran smiled faintly. Tomorrow, we leave the ruin. But tonight you rest, and you feel your power. Understand it. Let it grow. Because what comes next will test you more than the desert ever could. Leora nodded, her eyes returning to the glowing symbols. The hum of energy filled the ruin, a soft, pulsing reminder of her gift. The desert outside seemed quieter now, as if it too acknowledged her awakening. She leaned back, exhausted but alive, and allowed herself to dream of what she could become. For the first time since her father abandoned her, she felt strong, not just physically, but deep inside. And she knew, with a quiet certainty, that the desert had not broken her. It had revealed her true potential. The desert was no longer empty. The hum of the drones grew louder, sharper, like the heartbeat of some massive predator. Red lights flickered in the dunes. Stance, bouncing across the dunes and glinting off the ruins where Leora and Kiran hid. The wind carried the scent of metal and heat. Leora felt it deep in her chest. Danger. Her father's men had found them. Kiran stood at the edge of the ruin, scanning the horizon with narrowed eyes. They are not leaving, he said. These are advanced drones, controlled remotely by your father, Baron Kyle. He wants you back. Alive or dead, he will get what he wants. Fear gripped Leora, but it was different now. She was no longer the abandoned girl left to die in the desert. Something had awakened inside her. She could feel it, like sparks of energy dancing beneath her skin, ready to respond to her thoughts. They will break through eventually, Kiran said quietly. We need to move, now. Leora nodded, gripping the edges of the crumbling stone wall. Every muscle in her arms ached from hours of dragging herself through the sand, but she pushed the pain aside. I can do this, she told herself. I must. Kiran activated the protective dome from his device, and they stepped cautiously out of the ruin. The drones hovered closer, their red scanning lights cutting through the desert night like sharp blades. Leora closed her eyes for a moment, reaching deep inside. She focused on the hum of energy she had felt in the carvings, the spark that had awakened inside her the night before. Slowly, she extended it outward, willing it to interact with the machines. To her astonishment, one of the drones flickered, its lights wavered, its wings shuddered in midair, then another, and another. Leora gasped, barely believing it herself. She could feel the energy responding to her thoughts, bending the drone's control systems in subtle ways. Kiran's eyes widened. You're doing it! You're controlling them! Yes, Leora whispered, excitement and fear mingling in her voice. I think I am. The drones reacted violently. Their sensors tried to recalibrate, but Leora's focus held firm. Slowly, she guided them away from the ruin, diverting them into a wide canyon where their red lights would be lost in the shadows. It was exhausting, and she felt the strain in her mind and body. Sweat dripped from her forehead, mixing with the sand, but the sense of power filled her with determination. When the drones finally veered away, Kiran crouched beside her. That was incredible, he said. You have more power than you know. Your father feared this. He always underestimated you. Leora nodded, breathing heavily. Her arms trembled from the effort, but her eyes shone with new resolve. I won't let him control me, she said quietly. Never again. A sudden sharper hum cut through the night. Leora's head snapped toward the horizon. One massive drone, larger and more menacing than the rest, emerged from the darkness. Its body was sleek and black, and it moved with terrifying speed. This was no ordinary machine. This was a hunter, a sentinel sent by her father personally. Kiran grabbed her hand. We have to run, now. Together they scrambled across the sand, Leora dragging herself with her arms, Kiran supporting her weight. The massive drone followed, scanning the terrain, adjusting its course with deadly precision. Leora's focus had to split between controlling the smaller drones and surviving the predator pursuing them. Her mind reached into the energy she had awakened. She could feel the desert around her, the vibrations in the sand, the subtle flows of heat. Slowly, cautiously, she projected her power outward. A pulse of energy shot toward the massive drone, striking it in the center of its control panel. Sparks flew, and the drone wavered midair, its systems destabilizing. Kieran glanced at her, eyes wide with amazement. "You're getting stronger, faster than I imagined." Leora didn't have time to respond. The drone recovered and accelerated toward them, its weapons now glowing red. She could hear the faint hum of the energy in her own body, like a heartbeat syncing with the desert itself. Focusing harder, she sent another pulse, this time targeting the drone's sensors. Its lights flickered and dimmed, giving them a brief window to escape. The canyon ahead offered some cover. Kieran guided her into the shadows, careful not to make noise. Leora felt the energy surge within her again, more responsive than ever. She could feel the machine's systems faltering, the way her thoughts could manipulate its sensors and motors. It was terrifying and exhilarating. They reached a cluster of jagged rocks, and Karan whispered, "Hide here. I'll watch the drone. Keep your focus ready. You may need to use your power again." Leora crouched behind the rocks, every nerve on edge. The desert wind stung her face, but she felt alive in a way she never had before. Fear had not left her, but it had transformed into determination. She had survived the heat, the sand, the storms, and now this, alien hunters sent by her father, and she had fought back. The massive drone hovered above, its red lights scanning the shadows. Leora took a deep breath and let the energy pulse from her mind. Slowly, the drone's systems began to fail. Its engines shuddered, and it plummeted into the canyon below, exploding in a burst of fire and sparks. Kieran exhaled deeply, a grin breaking across his face. "That was perfect. You did it. You really did it." Leora sank to the sand, exhausted but exhilarated. For the first time, she realized the truth. She was not powerless. Her father had abandoned her, thinking her weak, but she had something stronger than any machine or desert storm: her mind, her courage, and a power she was only beginning to understand. And she knew deep inside that the desert had not defeated her. It had revealed her strength. The desert night was silent now, almost unnaturally so. The wind had died down, leaving only the faint hum of distant machinery. Leora crouched behind jagged rocks, her muscles trembling from exhaustion. Kieran had her hand on his device, scanning the horizon. But even he looked tense. "They're coming again," he whispered, his eyes narrowing. "Your father is not giving up. He's sending more drones, and something bigger this time." Leora's stomach tightened. She had fought before, but this felt different. The drones were machines, predictable, controllable by her energy. What was coming now would be personal. Her father would arrive himself. The sky shimmered with sudden light. Across the desert, a massive ship descended, its hull black and jagged, slicing the stars like a blade. It hovered silently for a moment, then a beam of light shot down, scanning the dunes. Leora felt her heart pound. "Baron Kale," Kieran whispered, his voice low. "He's here." The words hit her like a shockwave. Her father. The man who had abandoned her, left her to die in the desert heat. The one who had always treated her as weak. He had come himself. And now she realized he would see her for the first time not as a failure, but as a threat. Leora took a deep breath. The energy inside her pulsed stronger than ever, responding to her fear, her anger, and her determination. She could feel the desert beneath her, the vibrations of the sand, and the faint hum of the ruins' ancient power. Her mind had grown sharper. Her body was still limited, but her ability had become her strength. "Are you ready?" Karan asked, his hand steady on hers. Leora nodded. "I have to be." The beam of the ship's scanner passed over their hiding spot. Red light swept across the rocks. Leora focused her mind. A pulse of energy shot from her, deflecting the light and hiding their presence. Kieran's eyes widened. "Impressive, but this is just the beginning." A deep, commanding voice echoed across the desert, amplified by the ship's system. "Leora," the Baron said, cold and powerful. "You cannot hide. Come to me. Submit." Her father's voice was like ice in her veins. "Mem." Stories of abandonment, harsh words, and desert storms surged through her mind. But alongside the fear was something else, anger and resolve. "I will never submit," she whispered, barely audible. The energy inside her surged, responding to her words. The sand around her trembled slightly, and faint sparks shimmered in the air. The Baron's voice grew louder, sharper. "You are nothing without me. I created you. You belong to me." But Leora did not flinch. She could feel her gift growing stronger with every word, every threat. The desert was no longer an enemy. It was a part of her now, a channel for her power. She extended her energy outward, targeting the ship's sensors. Sparks of light danced across the hull. The massive craft shuddered. Systems faltered. The ship rocked as if it were alive, reacting to her will. Kieran gasped. "You're controlling it." "Yes," Leora shouted, her voice strong and clear. "I am not weak. I am not yours." From the ship, a hatch opened, and a smaller craft descended rapidly. Leora's father stepped out. His presence was commanding, terrifying. He moved with confidence, expecting to see a broken girl, someone who would bow to his power. But instead he saw her, Leora crouched in the sand, glowing with energy, every ounce of fear transformed into strength. "Impossible," the Baron muttered, his eyes narrowing. "You? How?" Leora rose slightly, the desert energy swirling around her like a cloak. "I am stronger than you think. I survive because I can adapt. I will not be controlled." The Baron's expression hardened. He raised his hand and the drones around them surged, weapons ready. But Leora didn't hesitate. She reached deep inside, feeling the desert, feeling herself. The energy pulsed outward, disrupting the drones' systems. They spun out of control, crashing into the sand. The Baron's eyes flared with anger. "You dare defy me?" "Yes," Leora said firmly, "because I am not your pawn. I am not your weak daughter. I am stronger than the desert, stronger than you, and I will survive." The desert seemed to respond to her words. Sand swirled violently, the wind picking up as if echoing her power. Kieran stood behind her, awestruck, seeing her grow before his eyes. The Baron hesitated, stunned by the force of her energy. For the first time, he faced someone who could match his power, not in physical strength, but in something far more dangerous: willpower and adaptability. Leora felt it, the turning point, the moment when fear transformed into strength, when abandonment became fuel, when weakness became power. She had faced the desert, survived storms, battled drones, and now faced her father himself, and she would not fail. "Run if you want," the Baron growled. "You cannot escape your destiny." "I choose my own destiny," Leora shouted. The energy pulsed around her, brighter, stronger, deflecting his attacks and sending his drones into chaos. The desert itself seemed to rise with her, carrying her resolve forward. And in that moment, Leora knew something profound. She was no longer the girl abandoned in the desert. She was a force of her own making. Her father's shadow had tried to crush her, but it had only revealed her true strength. The turning point had come, and she was ready for whatever came next.